Howdy, so you want to know the best budget tablets. So I've compiled some information as well as an average review of each of the budget tablets. But before this begin, I have to set some of the groundwork here. First off, there is tablet design. So if you like the shape of a 480, as it's more of a box, and 471 as it's more of a rectangle, I've kind of categorized them under such categories because the prices change depending on what shape it is. Also, at the end, I will give my recommendations based off what you might need them for, and I will be also only using respected brands, nothing cheap found off of eBay, just tried and tested tablets. For some tablets, I will be using the Haku's community drivers, and less specifically stated, assume that I did use these for drivers and for testing. Now, with all that being said, let's begin. Starting off with the 471 style tablets, and the cheapest one is the Hylian 420 and the Hylian H420. So you may have noticed this tablet has two variants, the 420 and the H420. So it's gone through a few renditions, but the current one, the H420, has 3 express keys on the side, similar to what Wacom has, and the 420 does not. The 3 buttons also make the price jump from $21 to $30, so I will be specifically talking about the 420 here. Okay, so this tablet is really small. Its active area is only 4 by 2.23 inches. The pen requires a battery, making it weighted, and it's kind of heavy if you're not used to it. Personally, I think weighted pens make spanners easier for me, but that's just me. Anyway, I couldn't find any information regarding the liftoff distance or the reading height. This is how far you can lift up the pen with the tablet still being able to read it. But if I had to guess, it's pretty low at about 4 to 6 millimeters. Anyway, the LPI is 4000 and the RPS is 200, so fairly standard. For those of you that have no idea what LPI or RPS is, LPS is basically the tablet resolution for how many lines fit into the resolution lines. These lines sense the tip of your stylus, so most of the time this is negligible, except when you're making your play area smaller than the actual active area or the full area, as most players do. So the higher the LPI, the more accurate it will be, the smaller the play area is getting. Anyway, RPS is, just think of it as reports per second. It's not exactly that, but you can think of it as so. Anyway, the LPI for this size is just meh. There's no reason for it to be truly higher, as it would kind of be wasted, but then again, it's already dated tech. Alright, so with the stats out of the way, let's get to the review. Keep in mind, this is of the 420 and maybe of the H420. As far as I can tell, there is no difference other than the express keys. So I still can't recommend this tablet. We'll just keep it at that. The tablet still has a problem with its nibs being way harder than the actual surface area, making it scratch incredibly easy, and on top of that, the tablet does bend. I have a problem with that, so if you travel, you would want to keep it in the original box. Personally, the performance is kind of slow, especially for its surface area. I should be able to whip it across the screen and it just react no problem, but it falls slightly behind my hand. I would take a pass on this and go for something else in this video for sure. Alright, so next up is the XP Pen 430S, coming in at about $23. This is a 471 style tablet, meaning it is rectangular, and it boasts a 4x3 active inch active area. Well, I messed that up. Anyway, it's 2 millimeters thick. Anyway, it's small enough to carry in your satchel, you stylish bastard. The LPI is 4000 and the RPS is about 266. The reading height is actually 10 millimeters, which is fairly high, and it's also it's a plus for people that hover. Anyway, the pen is batteryless and it is really light. And I have to say, I own this tablet and I also own the newer one, which is a 640, and the pens are identical and I really dig them. They're perfect pens for my hand. Alright, so for the review section, I really enjoy this tablet personally. It's a bit small and my hand absolutely dwarfs this, but I mean, shit, if you have normal hands, this should be okay. On terms of performance, it does beat the 420. However, it does fall short of pretty much everything else in this video, such as the Vikas, which is in the same category as this one, but I'll get into the comparison between it in just a second. The main thing about this tablet is the price, and the performance is really good in my opinion. Anyway, I still highly recommend this tablet. However, hear me out on some of these other tablets. Okay, so next is actually a newcomer in the tablet scene, or at least it is to me. It is the Vikas S640, and it comes in at right at $25. It's got a 6x4 active area. So it's kind of a mammoth for this style tablet, and it's actually the same as most of the 480s. Anyway, it's 2 millimeters thin, and you can shove it between your Dakimakura, you slim bastard. Anyway, the LPI is 5080 with a 230 RPS. So on paper, this tablet has probably the best stats out of all the 471s, and probably out of all of the tablets except for the 640, but more on that later. Its reading height is 10 millimeters, and it runs on a batteryless pen. Admittedly, I haven't used this tablet a lot. I used it at some cells just for reference, and I was surprised how responsive it was compared to the 430, the XP Pen 430 that is. With the drivers made by the OEM, and you can't actually use the community drivers with this, I was really impressed to see that the tablet has basically no smoothing applied to it, which is just abnormal for some OEM drivers. They just apply a ton of smoothing, so that way it's just they do it for art, and for it to not have a lot of smoothing makes it really a plus for this tablet. And honestly, it's like night and day for me. If I switch between the 430 and then I play on that, it's a pretty big difference. Also, the bigger area is a bonus, as the same area is just the G640 from XP Pen, and that's actually my current favorite tablet. It's just like spread out differently. Honestly, I can easily recommend this tablet over the 420 and over the XP Pen 430, as it's leagues better than both of them and really impressive for the price. Anyway, this is going to conclude the 471 section, as I didn't want to include any tablets I didn't personally have some experience with. Next up is slightly bigger tablets, styled a bit more like the 480. Once again, the cheapest tablet in this category is a Hylian 680S, and this is $30. It has a 8x6 active area with 4000 LPI and 200 RPS, which is actually pretty far behind current standards. Anyway, it uses a weighted pen and requires a battery. The tablet surface and the pen nib issue isn't nearly as bad on the 420, as the tablet is more solid. The liftoff is actually higher. I would put it to about 8 millimeters. My experience with this tablet and with Hylian in general, has been very bad and difficult for me. The first tablet I did receive had a jerky, or for just a lack of a better term, we'll say jerky, tracking. So every time the pen hit the surface, it would kind of stutter. So I returned it back to Amazon for a new one, and things were definitely a lot better. The tablet, however, for the price is just shit. Like, it doesn't even come close to the same performance offered $5 less and $2 more. So for $2 more, you can get the G640, which this right here is just dated tech, so don't bother. Not to mention, you're going to have to use the Hylian drivers, and they apply a ton of smoothing, so it's going to slow it even further. And I know people are going to say something about the batteryless pen you can buy. Bitch, what? So you want to spend $20 more on a tablet to have a batteryless pen, which, by the way, will shut off after 2 minutes of not using it. So if you hover and you're playing a long map and you're not touching the surface, it's going to shut off mid-playing. Anyway, Hylian, you're not the only tablet maker anymore. It's not 2015. I don't know why they haven't remade all their shit. XP Pen has. I just don't understand. Alright, next up is the Gaomon S56K at $33. Remember this boy? Anyway, it subs a 6x5 inch active play area with 4000 LPI and 200 RPS. So it uses the exact same pen as the 420, so it requires a battery and it's pretty weighted. The liftoff distance is 10 millimeters, so fairly high for you hover players. Anyway, the tablet is special compared to the rest. It's floppy. And it says it's 1.3 millimeters thin. However, on the packaging, it says it's 2 millimeters thin. I'm not too sure about that. Maybe it's talking about the big thing at the top. Anyway, this tablet, as far as performance goes, is average. It performs as a tablet should, and it is supported by the community drivers, so that's a plus. The tablet has a weird issue, however. The surface, or whatever it's made of under it, has an issue with long-term use. So it's already feels really cheap. So after a few months of using it, it's actually just, it turns into just this weird thing that feels like it's falling apart in your hands, especially on the surface, and probably due to how thin it is. So also, I've been told the support for this tablet is really subpar, and to be honest, I haven't experienced any issues with support, but people have said that and it's out there. I'm pretty neutral on this tablet. I can recommend it for gameplay performance, but for longevity, this tablet just won't last. Alright, so for the last tablet, it is the XP Pen G640, coming in at $33 again. I actually have a review about this tablet up on my channel if you want to check it out for a more in-depth look and comparison between some Wacom tablets. Anyway, the tablet boasts a 6x4-inch active area with a 5080 LPI and 266 RPS. The pen is batteryless and has the same liftoff distance as pretty much everything else here at 10 millimeters, so it is good for you hover players. I will say what I said in my review video to some extent. The thing is the best performing tablet next to the 480 in all of my experiences. With the community drivers, they have little to no smoothing, and this thing just feels really satisfying to play with. The extra RPS makes it a bit more smooth when moving around and jerking compared to the 480, but it still lacks the speed compared to it. I really don't know how to explain it. I really don't even technically know how to explain it. There's just the 480, it feels faster and is faster. Anyway, out of every tablet listed in this video, I would say the Vike is the only one that even comes close performance-wise, and even then it's still just a little behind. It's probably just placebo. I would put both of these tablets up very highly, and they're much different than the rest. So, as the conclusion comes, honestly, as you can see, most tablets have around the same stats, and most of what you see will be considered placebo. This doesn't mean some clearly don't outperform others or just shine better for your money. With this being said, I can only recommend 2 tablets in this video. The first one is the Vike, and this one is the $25 one. And the second one will be the XP Pen G640. I can comfortably say they perform better in my experiences and in a lot of other people's experiences than any other tablet here, and they also are pretty good quality-wise. It's like the Hylian has a bad surface and bends, things like the gaomon where the surface degrades over time. And I mean, some of the other tablets don't have these issues. I'm just using them as an example. Like, they don't have these. They perform pretty good and they're pretty cheap. So none of the tablets, okay, let me just say this. None of the tablets really perform awful. Most of them perform enough to be playable. Otherwise, they wouldn't sell. Some shine above the rest, except, some do have some fatal flaws, which we have to take into account for, but that's pretty much it.